Yo, what is up, every pony? It's UA from the Strictly Brony YouTube channel, and today I got a My Little Pony deck profile for you guys today. You know, I love My Little Pony. I watch it every night before I go to sleep, and yeah, it's just what better time is there to make a My Little Pony deck profile than today? So this is an Applejack kind of mono orange mid-range strategy deck. It's a Harmony deck profile. I only play Harmony because Harmony has the coolest cards. So Harmony is the format, basically like Legacy or Vintage, where you can play the whole game. And this is full Harmony, but no fan-made cards. So some people like to play the game with fan-made cards, but I just play all the cards that were made by the original company. Yeah, let's do this deck profile. So my main is this Applejack. It flips when you have a character with 5 or more power at the end of the turn. And this card enables your deck super well. So what it does, it has home limit 4, so just like most mains. But she's really nice because you can stack a friend on your board to check top 3 and add another friend among them to your hand and then discard the rest. This card is super good for getting you out of early game into mid game really quickly because, you know, early game you're slapping down weenie creatures, doing a kind of rush. And then you can scale your early game cards into the late game because you can cash them in on the board for other cards. You know, MLP, you don't want too many creatures on your board in MLP, so this helps you like get rid of the bad ones and still get value for them. So this is just the best main. The deck also plays some graveyard strategies in the late game, so it helps load up your grave. Super good card. So that's the main right there. It's max rarity, by the way, this deck. Gotta do the max rarity for my waifu Applejack. So yeah, next up I play obviously 3 of this Mana Dork. It's kind of a janky Mana Dork. All the good Mana Dorks are in purple, but this is what you got. So you have to discard 1 to reduce the cost of the next card you play by 1. And this is all we have, so we play it. It's kind of nice though because you have some cards that gain effects in the grave. And you have cards that gain effects when they are discarded. So this helps empty your hand out of those kind of deadish cards. And it lets you kind of play down more things, cheat stuff out, you know, just like traditional Mana Dorks. So 3 of this. 3 is the max quantity in this game. So yeah, obviously 3 of that. Next up I got 2 copies of this early game beater. So what it does is you can pay 2 to cutie mark this card. And then when it's cutie marked, it gets the +1/+1 from cutie mark, or just the +1 in this game. And then when it's cutie marked, it gains an additional +1 power. So it's a great going first card, and going second. It's just a great turn 1 card because you basically get to cheat out a 3-drop worth of stats on turn 1, and then turn 2 you pay the 2 to turn into a 3-drop. So kind of cheated out a turn early. I don't play 3 because this card's kind of bricky in the late game, right? You don't want to see it. Any card that's a 1-drop in the late game does become a brainstorm because you can always use your main to sack it off to check top 3 to add a card. So it's never completely dead, but you just don't want to see too many of it. You have quite a bit of 1-drops as it is, so I'm okay with just playing 2. I had to make a cut for other cards, and this one was the card I cut. Finally, I got 1 copy of this unique Rock Hoof. This card's broken. If you open it turn 1, you basically get like a ginormous creature throughout the game if they can't answer it. You don't need to play more than 1 because if you don't open it, whatever. And when you draw a late game, this card really sucks because it's too slow. So I think 1 is perfectly fine. It's just like a card that if you open with, it's just like, game's just easier. Next up, I play 6 different experience cards. So experience works when the cards are in the grave. This one has, in the grave, you can exile it from the grave to give a creature a +1/+1 counter. And you can also sack this off the board to give a creature you can divide 2 +1 counters among your creatures. And then this one has a ability in the grave it gives your main an extra +1 power when it's in the grave. So graveyard effects, works well with the main. It lets you, the main helps you mill these to the grave, and then these have abilities in the grave so that you get some value even though they're not in your hand. So it almost feels like pseudo pluses. Yeah, these cards are great. I think this card especially because it makes if you have all 3 in grave, your main is attacking for 6 power. You can kind of like cheese games just by using your main as a beat stick. So this card's like super broken. And then this card's pretty okay too because you have a lot of cards in the deck that also interact with +1 counters. Yeah, I mean, these are most of my 2-drops. They actually don't really come out on 2. This one does sometimes because you can play this on 2, power up another creature. But they work exceptionally well in the grave. Next up, an obvious staple. I got 2 of this Big Mac just against resources. Resources are so annoying in this game, and this card is just a broken card because it takes out a resource and you get a +1 counter from taking out a resource. So absolutely broken card. Only 2 of, because we have a event that also, I don't even know if they're called events. Oh yeah, they're called events. So like you have an event that also takes out resources, but at quick like a faster speed, right? You can do it mid battle. So 2 of this is fine. You don't really want to clog up your 2 lineup too much because if you open a mana dork, you can skip into 3 drops immediately on turn 2, and if you open this 1 drop, you're usually turning it into a 3 drop on turn 2. So you don't really have that many important tempo plays on turn 2. So 2 drops are kind of useless for this deck. Next up for 3 drop, my only 3 drop. It's great. I play this farm format. This card is great because its ability, it cantrips on play, right? On play, you check top 5, add a resource to your hand. Is it 5 or 4? I'm pretty sure it's 5. Yeah, it's 5. So yeah, you check top 5, you add a resource to your hand. The deck plays quite a bit of resources, so this helps make that pretty consistent. Most of your resources are like removal. So this card basically has an on-play get a removal card to your hand, which is super sick. And it also has 1 devotion to orange, so you can play it down. If you open pretty bricky, it's still a playable card with no devotion. So you basically have 9 cards that you can play with effectively no devotion. And yeah, so I think this card is really great. This is definitely one of those harmony cards. So when you play like modern ML, like regular MLP that isn't like the internal format, you don't have access to this, but I think, make no mistake, this card is really good. Next up, the only multicolor card I play is this Apple Orchard, Orchard Blossom. Sorry, this episode's hilarious, but this card's so sick. It's so, like, if you guys play Magic, there's a strategy called Reanimator, which basically brings out powerful creatures early for cheap. This card is like your Reanimator card, so what it does is on play you mill 3, and then you can select a friend from your drop and put it into play. So on turn 4, sometimes even turn 3, right, because you have the mana dork, but on turn 4 you can, or 3, you can basically cheat out one of your big creatures if you draw the right cards, and that sometimes is just GG's for your opponent. There are, like, this deck has a creature on 6 that if you get it out on 4, you can pop their not their problem, you can pop their man, the name of the card is slipping. It's the cards that you the villain. You can pop their villain basically, and is it called villain? I think it's called villain. Yeah, you can pop their villain on 4, and then you basically get an extra turn of tempo that way because they spent effort to get that villain into play and everything. They can't flip a new villain that they play down next turn. So that's just super broken. This card's super good. It has white devotion, so you do need to kind of play your cards right. There's only 1 card that gives white devotion in this deck, so it could be rough sometimes. But if you don't have the white devotion creating card, you can just skip out on this play. It's just a play that you have access to if the stars align, and it's super broken. Next up, I got 4 copies of Double Diamond. Man, this card against any kind of fair tempo aggro strategies like GG's. When you slap this down, and you can maybe farm up +1 counters with this 2 drop or the Rock Hoof, or one of your problems actually gives +1 counters. Like when you have this and you slap it down, it's like game over for your opponent. They can't actually like ever swing, right? So this effect is super nuts. Yeah, I think this card's broken. Problem is it has 2 power, but it gets +2/+1/+1 counters on play. But definitely when you flip it during face-offs, it's kind of cringe. But I think playing 4 of this is worth it. So yeah, 4 of this as well. And then here's like the big cards. I got 2 copies of Captain of the 7 Seas and 2 copies of Element of Honesty. So these are your kind of your big cards that the 4 drop can summon. And this is the card I'm talking about. When it gets put in play, you can pop Troublemaker. That's the word, not villain. Some Troublemakers are villains, but yeah. So when you cheat this out on 3 or 4, and your opponent has a Troublemaker, they try to set up a Troublemaker play. You can summon this card off the 4 drop if the stars align, and it's basically just GG's if you're playing on something like slower. It's hard for them to come back from that. So this card's just absolutely insane. Otherwise, if it's like not summoned off the 4 drop, it's like a pretty late game play. It's a 6 drop, so gotta watch out for that. And then the Captain of the 7 Seas is just against any aggro strategy, it's like a way to reset the board, right? And it's great because your main can pop everything on your board before summoning the Captain of the 7 Seas, so you don't even lose value off this card. So this deck can really capitalize off this really well. And yeah, you also get these on play effects because they say when this card enters play, which is so sick because you can get their effects off the 4-drop. Like, you know, you have some cards that say when you play this card, you can't use those effects when you try to summon them other than from your hand. But this way, the text read this way means you can get their effects. Yeah, these 2 cards are fantastic for control and for more aggressive strategies. Just 2 of each. That's it for friends. Next up, I got all the resources. I got 3 copies of the Fire Friendship. This is what gives me white. And this card's kind of sick too, because if you open the Manadork, you discard this. This comes into play immediately. So it's just value. It's kind of value in the sense this card's kind of dead. It's like a minus in itself. So it's not like true value, but at the bare minimum, like if you do use the Manadork, you can cheat this card out for free. So that interaction is why I ultimately play it. And so, you know, if you get this card off of the farm form area, you're not even minusing. So it's all good. It's all good. Only way to enable white, so nothing else to say. Here's the 6 copies of removal. Just put them like this. So 3 copies of Under Arrest and 3 copies of Out of Action. Just your removal suite. All tutorable off of farm form air. And yeah, you don't have any hard removal in this deck. It's all tap and stay tapped resources, but you know, that's all good. Like, if they can remove these, that's fine. But yeah, unfortunately, I'd rather have removal that's tutorable off this 3-drop than having hard removal. And Orange doesn't actually have that much great hard removal, so it is what it is. Next up, I got 2 copies of, let's see if I here, 2 copies of Clipped Wings. So this card's not great. It's like a hard minus. But what's nice is that there are some cards like the Yacht in yellow, Yak in yellow. Like some cards have broken effects, and if you clip wings them, you turn them off. So it's actually pretty nice that it's tutorable, and it just turns off some really broken cards in this game. So yeah, finally 1 copy of Rockhoof's Shovel. This card's great. It's another unique card, but like the ability to just assign +1 counter every single turn just for free is kind of nice. So it's just like a one-off. Again, if you draw, you draw. If you don't, it's whatever. Finally, for events, I got 3 copies of Bailout and 3 copies of Applejack's Epiphany. These are like just the broken orange events. You gotta play them. Like this is quick speed, or not quick speed, but at least it can be used during face-off. And Bailout is just the most broken card. The ability to, you know, add immediate speed, quick speed, being able to rest something on opponent's turn really messes with your plans. So these 6 cards are basically staples in orange-based strategies. Next up for problems, I'm gonna put them here. Where do I put them? I'm gonna put them here, I guess. I got 2 copies of the Starting Problem, Lacking Lesson Plans. So this card is just great because when you're playing against control, you can basically, if you sometimes can just like win games off of having this as the Starting Problem against control. They have like a weak hand, so I like this as the Starting Problem. It's cheap for me to confront, so it's pretty good. Next up, I got 2 copies of Hay Bale Monster Stack. Sorry, I don't know the names of these problems, but yeah, this card's okay. It's just a generic. It's just a generic one. It gives you +1 counters, so it's fine. It's not the best one, but you know, you don't really get that many choices when you're playing a monocolor deck. So yeah, I play 2 of these. 2 Call of the Cutie. This card's actually good. This card's actually so good because if you have Call of the Cutie and you also draw into your Rockhoof Shovel, it's like free tendies, man. You get like so many +1 counters. And yeah, Call of the Cutie is actually a really good one. Next up, we got 2 copies of Friendship Overload. Friendship Overboard. Sorry. Whoa. Yeah, Friendship Overboard. I got 2 copies of this. I'm gonna. Seems like. Wait, what am I doing? I don't know. I'm tripping. 2 copies of Friendship Overboard. This card's like okay. It's actually not that great. It is a problem that has 2 bonus points though, so I like to have like some copies of the 2 bonus point ones in the deck. And yeah, this was more in the deck because there was another version of this deck that played an exhaust based strategy, but yeah, this card's actually whatever in this build specifically. Probably can change it up actually, to be honest. And then finally 2 copies of this card. This is what Caught on Guard. This card's actually broken. Caught off guard. This card's broken because like against aggro decks, sometimes this card being your problem is just game over. Like they actually cannot confront this problem because they just have a bunch of creatures that are 2 or less printed power, and it's just GG's. So yeah, that's the deck. Shout outs to all the bronies out there. Love you all. Anyone want to play some Discord My Little Pony? I'm down. Sorry, every pony who wants to play some Discord My Little Pony, I'm down. And it's UA signing off, the Strictly Brony YouTube channel. Peace.